You may remember the infamous Salt Bay meme, which was a meme that went viral in 2017 because of a Turkish chef called Nusret Gökçe, I think it is, but I'm not going to say that I'm pronouncing that right. But as you can see, the infamous meme of him pouring salt on some steak that he was cooking. He was carving a steak and then he pours the salt on it, and it became a sort of iconic image for some reason. And this became incredibly viral. Millions and millions of people watched it, and it kind of starts his career, really. But I mean, this wasn't the start of his career. He started his career as a chef in 2010, but this is where
I imagine this was a huge publicity boost for him.
Massive, absolutely massive. And so he runs a chain of very high-end restaurants called Nusret or something like that. It's just something of his name. But it's, high-class, stylish, upper-class restaurants.
You could describe as bougie.
Very, very, especially given the amount of money you have to pay for things there. And this became a very recent controversy in which people were posting pictures of the receipts and the bills that they'd received at these restaurants. If you can scroll down so we can see the contents of the bill. There we go. Right, so you can see this bill is £37,000, which is staggering.
That's a lot of money.
But it's actually not that much for the actual food. As you can see on the bill there, it's actually the wine that these people have bought, nearly 10 grand a bottle.
Jesus
so
Christ.
30 grand of that bill is actually the wine, and then another 4 grand, 5 grand of it is the service charge.
I mean, while that makes up the majority of the costs, I can also just see they're charging £11 for a Red Bull.
Yes. The prices there are ridiculous, but not that ridiculous.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, £850 for a golden tomahawk steak is absurd. But if you go to like a high-end restaurant in London, you can expect to spend a couple of grand if you're feeling flush.
You've kind of got to expect that kind of cost.
Exactly. But I mean, don't get me wrong, that's ridiculously expensive, and I wouldn't eat that. Or at least if I did, it'd be for a good reason. But he's got 15 of these steakhouses around the world, and they are, of course, very, very expensive. You can see £850 for a golden tomahawk steak, which is literally exactly as it sounds, right? It's a tomahawk steak that's covered in gold leaf, and then cooked in the gold leaf, and then you get to eat it.
What does that add to the flavour?
Not much, but that's not why you're doing it, is it?
It's the sense of style, really.
Exactly.
It's the prestige of being able to afford it.
And in fact, the Independent actually published an article talking about this, going, look, you are missing the point. This is for rich people.
Well, yeah. This is a status symbol.
Yes, precisely. Interestingly, the restaurant doesn't even list the menu prices on the website, which is how you know it's a status symbol.
Yes.
If you're not a multimillionaire, don't go and eat there because you can't afford it.
And that's like going into a jewelry store, and it's like if you can't afford,
if you need to ask the price, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
But everyone was really offended by these receipts, and it's like, well, did you think that there weren't really expensive restaurants around?
There's always going to be some idiot willing to pay 37 grand for a meal.
I can tell you who they are, in fact. Okay. There's ex-Towie star Gemma Collins, who paid £1.5 grand for a giant tomahawk steak adorned with 24-karat gold leaf.
Of course, Gemma
whilst
Collins.
model Danielle Lloyd handed down over £100 for a golden burger. See, I mean, like £100 for a burger. Okay, that's ridiculous for a burger. But it's not that much. It's the wine that's the real...
Yeah, compared with all the rest of it. Yeah.
I've seen similar prices in ridiculous other London restaurants. So it's just like, Kate and Rio Ferdinand also went there declaring a fabulous afternoon with the family. Again, if you're a multi-millionaire footballer, it probably is a fabulous afternoon. I'm not, so I won't be going there. But they make a good point in this. Look, if you choose to become a paying diner at Nusret, you're choosing it because it's owned by one of the most successful internet sensations of all time. His is the face that spawned 1,000 memes, jokes, and now a ludicrously priced, highly successful restaurant chain. You're paying to fleetingly become a part of the Salt Bay brand. Yeah, you're paying for status. You're paying to be seen in a fashionable place.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's fine for us capitalists who think that if you earn loads of money, you should be free to spend it as you like.
Yeah.
If you're a communist, it might seem somewhat ironic that you're spending the people's money in Salt Bay's unbelievably expensive restaurant, as the officials from the Vietnamese Communist Party did when they came to London. Literally the day after visiting Karl Marx's grave, they found themselves eating at Salt Bay's restaurant. Unbelievable.
Somewhat, just pushing the boat out here, a little bit hypocritical. You could
Possibly
argue.
not what Karl Marx was arguing for.
I don't remember much hearing about Karl Marx being a frequent visitor of these kinds of fancy restaurants.
See, what the dictatorship of the proletariat needs to do is eat at really high-class bourgeois restaurants,
Yes.
while the people of Vietnam go hungry.
That really connects them to
Yes.
the working class.
So this was Tu Lam, Vietnam's Minister of Public Security, who was captured along with his entourage in a now deleted TikTok video being hand-fed a slice of Nusret's tomahawk steak by Salt Bae himself after they travelled to London to go to the UN's ongoing COP26 climate conference in Glasgow. So they decided to go to London, visit Karl Marx's grave, pay their respects. You've got to pay to visit Karl Marx's grave as well, which
Wonderful.
is another, win for capitalism. But again, and then go to Salt Bae's restaurant to spend thousands of pounds on gold leaf steak. Very communist.
This must be the will of the people.
It's exactly the kind of thing that Fidel Castro would have done.
The steak of the people.
Yes, and so this is amazing. And they had gone to the grave of Karl Marx, calling him a philosophical and ideological genius. Because let's be fair, these people probably wouldn't be eating gold steak if it wasn't for Karl Marx.
I was going to say, they've got a vested interest in calling him a genius.
Yeah, I mean, it's remarkable, isn't it? I mean, obviously Vietnamese human rights activists are outraged, but communists don't care about human rights. But interestingly, Vietnam has recently been victim to food shortages and overwhelmed hospitals in the face of a total coronavirus lockdown in September. Huang Dung, one of the first people to post pictures of the extravagant meal on his first personal Facebook page, questioned why a work dinner for communist officials had been held at such an expensive restaurant, while one person quoted by Radio Free Asia said, "My tax money has been used for luxury." It has.
Yes.
It absolutely has.
That is communism.
Yes, and so just a mildly ironic thing there, but let's just go on to what's going on with Salt Bae, just so we happen to have brought this up. He's having a staffing problem in his London restaurant. Apparently it's due to Brexit.
Oh, okay.
Apparently they had a massive call for staff recruitment, but nobody turned up. And as this standard article says, there is a staffing crisis in London. Good, frankly. The Office for National Statistics has complained that, there's like a huge gap in the job market with vacancies in the hospitality industry increasing by 38%. Obviously, with freedom of movement now gone, it's difficult to fill the available positions.
Does this incredibly fancy, expensive restaurant need an excess of low-wage workers to
They
staff it?
do.
Oh my goodness.
They do. They pay per hour the price of a bowl of mashed potatoes. So it's probably actually quite
Presumably not a bowl of mashed potatoes from that restaurant.
good. Well, no, that price. So it's something,
Okay.
it's something like £15 now, which sounds like a lot, but it's not.
Yeah, definitely.
And
not
it's
in
certainly
London.
not when you're such a high-class establishment.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got quite...
At least pay me for a bowl of mashed potatoes and a Red Bull.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Good God. But another reason that they might be having trouble getting people working there is because apparently previous people who've worked there have claimed that it's basically run under an atmosphere of fear. Like, apparently this guy's a tyrant in his restaurant. If you can scroll down a bit, you can see the headline. So he's come under fire from diners for his high prices and was ordered in the US in his US branch to pay £170,000 to staff after accused of withholding tips. The firm obviously has a very low rating with ex-workers, with 35% of them saying, only 35% saying they would recommend working there. One wrote, "Managers are disorganized and don't respect you. HR basically works under the managers. They overbook too much and it gets hectic, overwhelming. The customers' employees quit like flies." Okay, so not being run terribly well, it seems.
So he's not generously sprinkling their tips back at them, I see.
No,
No.
they don't get paid brilliantly considering the amount of money they must be raking in. But again, this is what you can achieve if you have style. You have a certain sense of the ability to sort of weave a kind of magic, which Salt Bae clearly has, and good for him. It's very enterprising, but he could pay his employees well. But anyway, so the next place that he's going to is Saudi Arabia, because I tell you what, there's certainly going to be no tyranny there. But yeah, so he's just opening a new restaurant in Saudi Arabia, which will be, I'm sure, very popular with the royal family.
Well, yeah.
It's like 50,000 people.
He's not going to be struggling to find people willing to spend absurd amounts on a steak, is he?
Exactly. But yeah, so isn't it interesting how the Communist Party of Vietnam have no scruples at all? Thanks for watching this clip from the podcast of the Lotus Eaters. We broadcast live on lotuseaters.com at 1 p.m. UK time every weekday. And we also have loads more content that we don't put on YouTube, such as the memes and video comments from our community. Every week we also have new episodes of our regular series, Contemplations and Epochs. In Contemplations, Josh explores interesting and diverse topics such as the science behind the need for fathers in the home, or why people believe in ghosts and the paranormal. In Epochs, Bo and I go on, often at length, about various events and periods in history that are particularly fascinating. We've just finished a 5-part mini-series on the 100 Years' War, which I particularly enjoyed right up until the end of it when, spoiler alert, the French won. Alongside our excellent team of in-house writers, we also commission articles from outside contributors, and Silver and Gold tier subscribers have access to an audio recording of each premium article, so you don't have to read it yourself. We interview various contemporary thinkers and entertainers, as well as host the recordings of our live events. We also have a series of premium video content on the site, which we think is particularly worthwhile, or we simply can't put on YouTube because their editorial policies prohibit reasonable discussion on the subject. Personally, I think the deep dives we've been doing into critical theory and critical race theory are most important, as we reveal the origins of intersectionality and the plan that the radical left has for our societies. We are funded almost exclusively by our subscribers, so if you'd like to join us in the work we're doing, head over to lotuseaters.com and we'll see you there.